From origami to the best of Missouri market, it's all to the Missouri Botanical Garden. And we'll find out more next on City Corner. I'm Steve Potter, and welcome to City Corner. Well, the Missouri Botanical Garden is getting back to normal, as most other places are. Please welcome Christina DeYoung. Hi, Christina. How are you?
Hi, I'm great. Thanks for talking with me today.
Hey, listen, the first thing I have to mention is that beautiful backdrop behind you. Is that real? Is that the Missouri Botanical Garden? What is that?
Yes, so I am currently in my home, but this is a virtual backdrop of the Missouri Botanical Garden. And these are flowers that are currently in bloom. Right now, they're actually at their peak of their bloom. These are the Japanese water irises in the Japanese garden. And these are a favorite of a lot of our guests. They're sort of the last iris collection that blooms each season. So definitely worth coming out to see this week.
Iris is always one of my favorites. You mentioned that from home, so I just got to ask you. I know, like everybody else, this last year was kind of crazy for people. I'm sure you were shut down altogether for a while. So, just what was that? What was that like? And has it been a slow road back to normal?
Yes. Yeah. So it was gradual. When we first closed down, I and a coworker of mine, Cassidy is his name, started doing virtual tours of the garden each week to kind of give people a chance to experience the garden from home while we were closed to the public for a couple of months last year. And although the garden is now reopened and we're increasing capacity over time as we work with the city health department, Cassidy and I are still doing those virtual tours for anyone who doesn't feel comfortable coming out yet or just can't, regardless for whatever reason, whether they live out of town and miss St. Louis or have mobility challenges that keep them from coming to the garden. So those are going to continue each week. And it's a great way to see what is in bloom.
What do you just walk around and a camera follows you and you talk about what you're seeing? Is that how it works?
That's about it. Yeah, it's that simple.
And do people have to sign up for that, or what? Is that an individual thing, or?
No, those air publicly each week or so. Sometimes if weather doesn't allow, we skip a week here and there, but on our Facebook page, and then they'll later be uploaded to our YouTube channel. So those that don't have Facebook can still watch on YouTube.
Uh-huh. I'm wondering, it's probably more of a complicated question than I think, but I'm wondering how the pandemic, now that things are getting back to normal, how it has affected your visitors. I would have guessed, and you can tell me if I'm right or wrong, I would have guessed that most of your visitors were from out of town or out of state. And then I would think maybe it was more local people the last few months. Do you have a handle on that at all?
I'm not sure we have data on where our visitors are coming from, but I do know that I think people really missed the garden while we were closed last year because our attendance numbers have been really high as people are returning, and it's a nice outdoor activity to do to mind safety as the pandemic continues as well.
And what kind of numbers did you have before the pandemic annually?
I would have to get back to you on exactly what that is, but on average, it's 1 million visitors per year.
Wow, that's incredible. That's close enough.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, let's talk about, but before we talk about things getting back to normal, I just want to say it's sad that we missed a few things. Like the Whitaker Music Festival, we had to skip that, didn't we?
Yes, so that decision was made earlier this year to cancel that for this year, but it will return next year. And we do have an opportunity to come enjoy the garden in the evening still and experience some live music. So this year we're offering origami after hours, which we'll talk a little bit more about origami in the garden in a minute, I'm sure. But there is that opportunity to come visit in the evening on Thursdays and Fridays all summer.
Well, let's talk about origami. And that origami in the garden is through October 10th, I believe.
Yes.
And I guess most people know what origami is. It's the art of folding paper.
It is, yes. So these are large scale sculptures that are either cast paper or sometimes just modeled after paper origami works. And they're all around the garden. There are close to 20 different sculptures, so you can certainly come a couple different times and see different things that you might have missed the time before. So it is a really great exhibit.
You're not giving any origami lessons, are you?
Not me personally. I don't know how to do it.
Yeah, and I think origami had its origination in Japan, so it fits in with the Japanese garden and everything.
Yes, so there are a couple throughout the Japanese garden, but they're not only concentrated there, they're throughout all grounds.
All right, I'm not sure if you mentioned it. Origami After Hours, is it just Thursdays and Fridays through August?
It is, yes, Thursdays and Friday evenings.
Okay, anything else we need to know about origami?
I would just say definitely come out and see it. And if you come during the day to origami at the garden, there's no extra charge. It's just general admission and they're all there for you to see.
I always think of origami as small things. Are some of these large scale?
Yes, they are. They're definitely large scale. There's some um, origami ponies, for example, in front of the historic Tower Grove home that no, we don't want you to climb on them, but they are large enough that a human could sit on the horse.
But don't touch the origami.
No, please don't. They are works of art, but they're great to see.
Another thing I want to ask you about, which is always pretty popular, and I think it's usually held in April, but obviously that's different this year. Chinese Culture Days.
Yes, so that's correct. It is usually held in April. It's usually kind of our first big event of the spring, but this year it was postponed, but it is still happening. So if you missed it, you can attend August 7th and 8th this year. And the programming will look much like you're used to. Of course, we're going to continue following guidance from the CDC and health department to see what kind of limitations may need to be in place. But as far as we know right now, it's going to look close to normal.
And how do you celebrate Chinese culture at the Missouri Botanical Garden?
Well, there are a lot of different events, performances. There will be food vendors. So just kind of something for everyone, whether you're more of a music person or a cuisine, dance, there's all kinds of cultural displays.
And then there's the Japanese festival, which was already mentioned. And I'm guessing, I'm probably wrong, that that's probably the oldest of the two, as far as being celebrated at the Botanical Garden.
I believe that is correct, but I'm not quite positive.
I won't hold you to it then, but tell me about the Japanese festival.
Yeah, so similar to Chinese Culture Days, that's going to look pretty similar to how people are used to. So we're really excited to bring that back. And that's going to be taking place over Labor Day weekend. As far as specific activities for that one, we're excited to be bringing back sumo wrestling again this year, which is always a popular attraction.
Is there any opportunities for someone like me to be involved in the wrestling?
They actually do sometimes do performances where they will invite someone up on stage. And last year, well, not last year, but in 2019, the last time the festival took place, they invited a really little kid up there to sort of try to go at the sumo wrestlers, and it was pretty cute.
I guess I'll just stick with origami then. It's a good idea. That's a good idea. Do you get much interaction? I don't know, in your position there, Christina, do you get much interaction with the public?
As far as those virtual tours go, yes, we try to engage with people who are watching them. But I'm not front facing, I'm not at the ticketing desk or anything like that. So normally if I'm seeing the public, it's someone that I'm just running into on grounds, or sometimes who might recognize myself from those virtual tours and will ask questions.
I bet you observe things though, and tell me if this is right. Can't you just see it in people's eyes and expressions when you're just walking around and seeing the visitors there and their reaction to what they're experiencing there? You must see it on their faces.
Yes, definitely. There's a lot of like, wow, especially right now, our rose garden in particular is really stunning. There's a lot of different roses in bloom. It's kind of one of those things where you round the corner and it's just immediately impressive. Lots of pictures are always being taken, whether just of the flowers or, families getting together to have photos taken of themselves. So it's a really beautiful place.
Well, there's a lot else going on there too. Would you stick around with us for the second part of the program?
Sure, can do.
All right, we're talking about what you can see and do at the Missouri Botanical Garden, and we'll continue with that on City Corner.
There's so many reasons to love St. Louis, you can't pick just one. From the arts, architecture, and culture. An all-new development, including the Cortex Community Center. And you're never too far from great music and entertainment.
So come and experience St. Louis.
Selfie. Nailed it.
This is the story of a boy who didn't talk for a long time. The boy liked things to always be the same. Any changes would scare and upset him. The unknown was an unfriendly place. The boy was very sensitive to lights and sounds. So he built secret hiding places where they couldn't get in. The boy didn't like looking people in the eye. He wasn't trying to be mean, it just made him feel uncomfortable. Sometimes he would flap his arms again and again.
One day, I found out I have something called autism. My family got me help. Slowly, I found my voice and learned all the ways I could live with it better.
Early intervention can make a lifetime of difference. Learn the signs at autismspeaks.org.
You might not feel its symptoms, but the results from a stroke are far from invisible or silent. If you've come off your treatment plan, get back on it, or talk with your doctor to create an exercise, diet, and medication plan that works for you. Go to loweryourhbp.org.
If I would have followed a treatment plan, I would not be in this situation.
Okay, Dad. 1, 2, 3. You saved me. Dad?
Are you okay?
I'm fine, dear.
Your hero needs you now, and AARP is here to help. Find the care guides you need at aarp.org/caregiving.
Visitors and residents love
love the St. Louis Zoo because it's free. There's a train, a carousel, opportunities to make new friends, and plenty of fun learning experiences with the animals 363 days a year. So come and experience St. Louis.
I'm Steve Potter. Welcome back to City Corner. Christina DeYoung is our guest. She's from the Missouri Botanical Garden, and we've been talking about their exciting summer, which is ahead. And Christina, as we said before, I bet all the employees are a little pumped that things get a little busier every day and things are sort of going back to normal halfway.
Definitely. There's a lot of excitement about some of these favorite events returning. A lot of us missed those last year, I think, as the public did as well. And it's really nice to be sort of easing back into those, slowly getting back to that normal.
For someone that's never been there, there's so many different things to do. Do you need to make plans to go to certain places, or can you just walk in and walk around? What's your best advice to someone that's never been there before?
Sure. So right now we are recommending that you reserve tickets ahead of time, which you can do at mobot.org/visit. There are walk-up tickets available, but for the time being, we still have some capacity limits in place. So just to guarantee that you have a spot, we do suggest that. But once you get in, there are, as I mentioned in the first segment of our interview, these flowers behind me, the Japanese water iris in the Japanese garden. I would definitely recommend going to check those out if you're there in the next week or two. Same with the Gladney rose garden, which you'll see just as you walk in the Lehman rose garden. But there's always something to see, and no matter what season you're going in, you can always just sort of wander around and see what you can find.
Yeah, people might not realize even winter is a good time to go.
It is. And speaking of the Japanese garden, that's definitely my favorite place to be in the winter time. With the lake, it's always, well, not always, but often frozen over. It's very picturesque.
Wow. Well, we've talked about Chinese Culture Days, the origami in the garden, Chinese Culture Days, and the Japanese Festival. Let's move to the Best of Missouri Market.
Sure. So that will also be taking place this year. Again, it will be looking pretty similar to how you're used to seeing it. There may be some spacing out of vendors just to maintain social distancing, depending how things develop by that time of year. It's hard to say now. But yeah, but the event includes all kinds of local and statewide vendors with everything from wine to food to textiles, art, local honey, local beer, things like that.
Honey or beer? Do I have to choose?
If you had to choose, what would you choose?
Honey beer. I've seen honey beer.
Okay, there you go. Best of both worlds.
So that's the Best of Missouri Market. And that is October 1st through 3rd, did you say?
Yes, that's correct.
How about Garden Glow? You know, that's I like visual things, and you can't beat the Garden Glow.
Yes, so that is our holiday light show for anyone who hasn't been or heard of it before. And every year there are over 1 million lights, and it's really quite dazzling. It's a great reason to come in the winter, and it's a great place for Christmas card photo opportunities. This year, we're actually opening a bit earlier than normal in early November. So if you do want to come early, get that card photo and print it, send it out, we'll be open with quite some time before Christmas and all through, I think, the first or second week of January.
That's Garden Glow. What about summer blooms? Of course, we're just getting into summer now, but we're headed towards it.
Yes, definitely. So I already mentioned the roses. Those are always a favorite. There are also our water lilies, which are already now out in the pools. The lilies themselves some of those get really impressively large, the Victoria water lilies specifically, but they'll bloom as well. And those are a favorite. Day lilies are coming up in the next couple weeks, probably through mid-July. Those will be looking really good. Asiatic lilies, a lot of different types of lilies. They're all very different from each other though. Yeah, there's always something in bloom at the garden.
That makes me think of something. I don't know. Are you still doing the classes and things? You do a lot of educational things. When you're talking about the plants, I was thinking, I don't know what half those are. So anyway, are those classes and educational opportunities still available now, or are they on hold?
Yes, they are still available. And a lot of those are in person again now, but we also did adapt during the pandemic to offer some virtual classes. And we're continuing to offer some of those, which sometimes are just easier for people to be able to tune in from home. So there's a pretty wide variety of those classes available, everything from gardening advice to even just cooking classes. So definitely worth checking out.
Absolutely. All right. Believe it or not, we'll blink a couple of times and fall will be here, and you're going to recognize that.
Yes, that's for sure. At the garden, there is a really diverse tree collection. So there's a lot of fall color and all different shades. You know, we've got the golds and the reds and oranges. And it's definitely a great place to come and check that out, especially the Japanese garden that I've mentioned a couple times now, as well as the English woodland garden. And we usually do Tree Week, which is a campaign each fall to highlight that fall color and some of the most interesting, historic, impressive trees in our collection.
Hey, I want you to expound on a little something I was thinking about. You know, the Missouri Botanical Garden is not one of a kind, but it almost is.
Yes, yes.
Right?
So are you referring to our other two locations as well?
No. I just mean as far as the Missouri Botanical Garden, facilities like that are not that common in the United States. There aren't that many of them.
Right. There are other botanical gardens in other cities, but ours is a very large, well-known one. We're well-known for not just the spot that you're probably familiar with visiting or driving past or hearing of. We're also really well-known worldwide for our research and conservation work, which is something that we're really proud of.
Mm-hmm. Well, you mentioned the Butterfly House and Shaw Nature Reserve. Let's talk about that because those are two sites you have not in the city itself. The Butterfly House is in Chesterfield. And I want to say the Shaw Nature Reserve, I guess it's Gray Summit. So would you talk about each of those?
Sure. So the Butterfly House, it is in Chesterfield, as you mentioned. They're open Tuesday through Sunday, 9 to 4 right now. They have an exhibit called Under the Big Top, which is a circus themed exhibit. There are all kinds of cool insects there, not just the butterflies, scorpions and roaches even. There's some pollinators in the back. There's a pollinator garden where you can see butterflies and bees. And of course, it's in Faust Park. So there's a lot to do. You can go out there and kind of make a day of it.
Right. And then the Shaw Nature Reserve?
Yeah, so that, as you said, is in Gray Summit. It's about 30 minutes down 44 from the Missouri Botanical Garden, the garden's primary location. And it's a really unique place to go interact with nature here in Missouri because there are wooded areas, there's access to the Merrimack River, there's glades, prairies, so just all kinds of Missouri habitats to see there, as well as a wildflower garden that's really nice at this time of year.
I wanted to ask you about the visitor center too, because do you have construction going on or something? I think that's not even going to be completed to next year. What's happening?
We do. So we are really excited to be building a new visitor center right now, the Jack C. Taylor Visitor Center, which will be opening summer of 2022. A ways away, but it will come faster than we think. So we're very excited for that. There's going to be several new gardens. The gift shop will be expanded to include an outdoor area. There will be a new conservatory attached, and it's also going to be more accessible for those with mobility concerns. So we're really excited to open that up next summer.
Well, I want to ask you about this because I can't pronounce it. It's some sort of tree, but the thing is, it's some sort of rare tree, like one of the rarest trees on the planet. What's that about?
Yes, so it's the Coromia gigas, which is one of the rarest trees on the planet. It just bloomed in our greenhouses last month. And we believe it is the first time not only that botanists have witnessed it bloom, but possibly anyone in the world. And because flowers are the way that plants reproduce, and we're trying to ensure that this plant sticks around, it's very significant that it blooms, because that allows us to do things like cross-pollinate and hopefully plant more trees and continue conserving this species that's right now on the edge of extinction. So it's huge.
And like, are the gift shops and can you still have lunch out there?
Yes, so we have Cafe Flora is still open, which is on the central axis. There's some other food options in the actual visitor center and express dining options, and the gift shop is still open as well.
How long have you been with the garden?
It's been a little over 2 years.
What's it like working there? I always thought that'd kind of be like a dream job. I can only imagine taking my lunch break and walking around Missouri Botanical Garden.
Yes, I think that is definitely a favorite activity of most employees here, is the lunch break walk. It's nice.
Are you still using volunteers?
We're just beginning to bring some of our volunteers back. We had to stop accepting them during the pandemic, but we're working to bring them back now.
Well, what's the best way in conclusion for people to plan a visit? Go to your website?
Yeah, I would say visit mobot.org/visit, as I mentioned, and that will take you to where you can reserve your tickets. You can also find your way to reserve tickets to Shaw Nature Reserve or the Butterfly House through that website. So no matter what you're interested in, that's a great place to start.
And gardening classes, are they back on?
Yes, so if you're interested in looking into those, you would visit mobot.org/classes, and that will take you to our class catalog where you can register for whatever piques your interest.
Well, Christina DeYoung, thank you so much for being our guest in the Missouri Botanical Garden. And even though you're not there, it sure looks like you are from your backdrop.
Yes.
So thanks. It's really one of my favorite places to go, and we appreciate you being there. Thanks for joining us today.
Of course. Thank you.
You bet. And I hope you at home will take advantage and get to the Missouri Botanical Garden as soon as you can. You won't want to miss it. I'm Steve Potter. Thanks for being part of today's City Corner. We'll see you next time. Bye.